Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. This is going to be part 2 of a two-part series of videos that are showing you brand new tanks that will be coming up in future patches. In this video we're going to see 2 British tanks, 1 German tank which you're looking at now, and 4 Soviet vehicles. Now all of these vehicles are likely to be premium, but I will say that I'm only going to be guessing at the tiers that they will be in the game, and I'm going to be making these guesses based more or less on the hit points of the tanks. So this Krupp Waffenträger, as we can see, has 850 hit points. That's the standard health for a tier 7 tank destroyer. Now one of the awesome things about this vehicle is it gets the same gun that's on the Jagdtiger 88. This 88mm, it has 9.09 rate of fire, which albeit is worse, as well as also having worse aim time and accuracy, but it's still a very respectable 0.33 and 2.2 seconds aim time. That makes this tank a fantastic sniper, and the penetration characteristics are same as on the Jagdtiger 88. But as this tank is a whole tier lower, being able to shoot at tier 5 tanks with that 88mm is going to be simply devastating. Nevertheless, this rate of fire doesn't really seem that impressive when you consider that the Nashorn, which is a tier lower than this vehicle, has a better rate of fire with pretty much the same gun. However, the Krupp Waffenträger has a fully traversable turret, and that's its key advantage. You will be able to quickly re-engage targets, and it will give you the flexibility that you need to outplay heavy and medium tanks that other tank destroyers simply couldn't. But this is where the good story ends, as this tank has no armor whatsoever, 20mm at the front. And that means that if any HE rounds hit you, you are a goner. The Krupp Waffenträger is very likely to become the #1 priority target for artillery and also for KV-2s. This is made doubly worse by the fact that this vehicle is also rather slow. It gets a 140 horsepower engine and the tank weighs 14 tons. So acceleration in this vehicle will be slow, but it does have a very healthy top speed limit of 35 kilometers an hour and excellent traverse speed on its tracks and turret. The Krupp Waffenträger is a very interesting tank coming into the game at tier 7, considering that the E25 was just removed from the gift shop a couple of months ago. This tier for tier replacement will be best suited at long ranges, ripping apart its enemies quickly with that 88mm. And combining its low-profile nature with a camouflage net and binoculars, you're going to be very likely to see your opponents way before they can see you, and hopefully you can snipe them out. So now we are looking at the A45. I'm unsure whether this is going to be a medium tank or a heavy tank, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be at tier 8 as it has 1,500 hit points. It's easier if I explain this tank, how it matches up to different parts of other British vehicles. It appears to have the hull of the Centurion 1, the tier 8 medium tank, combined with a similar turret, albeit different, to the Centurion 7 one. And it uses the 17-pounder gun that is on a variety of British vehicles, but you'll probably most likely know it from the Black Prince, the tier 7 British heavy tank. Or if you're a driver of the TOG, it's on there as well. Now everyone knows the worst thing about the 17-pounder gun on the Black Prince is the penetration, 171mm. With 150 alpha damage, you have to shoot your opponents so many times to take them out. And so it's very interesting that the A45 will be at tier 8. You'll have to penetrate an enemy A45 10 times to kill him. Whereas many tier 8 tanks will be able to take you out in 2, 3 or 4 shots. But doing this won't be too tricky because you have an excellent rate of fire, nearly 14 rounds a minute, although the accuracy at the moment, and remember everything is subject to change, is 0.39 with 2.3 seconds aim time. Now the engine power on this tank is excellent, it's 800 horsepower, and the vehicle weighs just shy of 56 tons, and that will allow this machine to accelerate very quickly up to wait for it, top speed of 31 kilometers an hour. Now everyone knows that the British medium tanks are hampered. When you get past the Comet, your top speed limit is 40 on the tier 8, the tier 9 and the tier 10 tank. However, to have this go down to 31 kilometers an hour is absolutely, it's crippling for the vehicle. I find with my rapid fire guns like this 17-pounder, You really have to get the side or the rear of the enemy. And trying to flank your opponents with this kind of top speed limit is going to be very tricky indeed. Nevertheless, it's likely that the A45 will be the first British premium medium tank at high tier. But don't quote me on that, because this could very easily be a heavy as well. Everyone knows that the British medium and heavies are fairly similar vehicles. This tank screams SDA2 for me, which is a rather underwhelming tank. However, this loses the speed that the STA2 has to gain armor. I think this vehicle might be good for a heavy tank player who maybe wants to branch into mediums, if indeed this is going to be a medium tank. But I think really, with this loss of speed, the A45 is left as a bit of a nothing tank, and I would far rather play the Caernarvon. Now we're looking at a tank which is having a bit of an identity crisis. This is a Cromwell, or as Wargaming are calling it, Cromwell Berlin. What's even more confusing about this tank is that it has an American star on the back of it. Upon investigating further, it appears as if there's going to be a trio of tanks that might be related. The IS-2, the ISU-122S, which a lot of people are incorrectly calling the ICS-122C at the moment. That's a mistranslation problem, thanks to Pepperdy for that one. And this, the Cromwell Berlin. There's probably going to be some kind of an event where these three tanks are either released, maybe as part of a reward series, or maybe they'll be just put into the gift shop all at the same time. We'll have to see what happens, but all I really care about is that this tank does look gorgeous. I am a Brit saying that this tank with the American star on it looks so much better than the current Cromwell in the game. And what better map to show it off than on this Normandy map that will be coming into the game soon as well. When I finally get to play this on the test server, expect a full review of this map coming soon. Now we're looking at the IS-2. It's the same weight as an IS. It has a worse engine, however, 100 horsepower less than the current IS. But it has a pretty nice paint job. Alright, job done. Let's move on. Now we're looking at the ISU-122S. This is probably the most novel tank of this Berlin trio that's going to be coming into the game at an undisclosed time. It has the same hit points as an SU-152, which strongly suggests that this tank will be a tier 7. It also has the same gun performance identically as if you were to use the 122mm on that SU-152. However, the key feature of this vehicle is the hull. It has the hull of an ISU-152, the Tier 8 Soviet tank destroyer, which is much more heavily armoured than the Su-152. And currently, the stats of this tank indicate that it's going to have a better traverse speed than the ISU-152, 27 degrees rather than the 21 to 23 depending on which tracks you use on the vehicle. Although I feel that this is likely to be a typo and is probably going to be patched because the traverse speed on the Tier 7 and Tier 8 Soviet tank destroyers is one of the key weak points of it, and is a countermeasure to allow people to outplay these tanks. If this doesn't get changed, and even if it does, this is going to be a formidable tank in a Tier 7 matchup. But if this tank doesn't get preferential matchmaking and can meet Tier 9 vehicles, it's going to lose its health so quickly, and the extra armor that you have on it is going to amount to nothing. And once again, we see a pretty nice paint job on this tank. And now this is where it gets interesting. You are looking at the Object 244. This is a Tier 6 Soviet premium heavy tank with an 85mm that is similar to the performance on the T-3485, with good aim time and accuracy. But the strength of this vehicle is that it is very, very well armoured for a Tier 6 tank, with 120mm of frontal armour, 100 at the side and 60 at the rear, and you still have 100mm on the front and 90 on the side and the rear of the turret. The tank is going to be fairly sluggish with a 520 horsepower engine and weighing 44 tons, but that's still going to be enough to get you where you need to go to put out the punishment and weather the storm in the Object 244. The fact that this tank has the same armor profile as an IS and can meet Tier 4 tanks is simply ridiculous. This is going to be a true brawler and should be a favourite for those of you that like to play your mid-range heavy tanks very aggressively indeed, and if you do get yourself into trouble, you have the armour to bounce your way out of it. The thing that differentiates the Object 244 from the other Tier 6 Soviet heavy tanks is that this one's gun is not really devastating. If you look at the KV-85, you get a 100mm that does 250 alpha damage, and still have an outstanding rate of fire of nearly 8 rounds a minute. The Object 244 fires 10.5 rounds a minute, but its alpha damage drops down to 180, and its penetration is not even close to that of the KV-85's 170, it is 144. And when you compare this gun to the 107mm that you can use on the T150, there are going to be quite a lot of heavy tanks that will be able to out-trade you in this vehicle. Nevertheless, the Object 244 is going to be one of, if not the most heavily armoured tanks at Tier 6. Definitely one to watch out for, and will be a powerhouse in a good matchup. And finally, we are looking at the Rudy. This tank is practically a T-34-85. With the same gun, same armor profile, same hit points, but 100 less horsepower on its engine. Isn't that basically what they just did with the IS-2? But who am I to say? Everything is subject to change. This is going to be a special tank based upon a popular Polish program which translates as 4 tank men and a dog, which should make it very popular for one of the largest tank communities. I wonder if they're going to do a similar thing that they did with the Fury tank, and have it so that you can have the same crew names as the characters in the program and come with the vehicle. For me personally, I think the tank looks great. All of these premium skins, if you want to call them that, for the tanks do. But I have very little interest playing what for me is a very good but unremarkable tank. It gets the job done, it's just not going to do it in a stylish fashion. Nevertheless, if the T-34-85 is your cup of tea, or maybe you're just a fan of the program, then look no further than the Rudy. You're going to have a lot of fun with this. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving it a like down below. And if you want to see the video that I did on 6 brand new French tanks, including a Tier 9 and Tier 10 AMX-30B, then simply click here and you can go through and check them out. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about these 6 vehicles that will be coming in. Are you disappointed that they're not going to be novel? And that effectively, they're more or less just reskins? Apart from, of course, the Waffenträger, which I'm personally really excited about. Of course, when these tanks are released on the test server, look no further than coming back to the channel. I will put out full previews and let you know everything there is to know about them. And anyway guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.